Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, text number 42. Yesham se esha bhagavan dayayedananta sarvatmanashrita pado yadi nirvalikyam. Te dushtaram atitaranti cha deva mayam. Naisham mamaham iditi swasrikala bhakshye. Isham se esha bhagavan dhyayedananta sarvatmanasrita pado yadi nirvalikam. Te dushtaram atitaranti cha deva mayam. Naisham mamaham iti dishvashrikala bhakshye. Isham se isha bhagavan dayayedananta. Sarvatmanashrita pado yadi nirvalikam. Te dushtaram atitaranti cha deva mayam. Naisham mamaham iti dishvashrikala bhakshye.
Ishtam Saisha Bhagavandaye Ananta Sarvatmanashrita Pado Yadi Nirjalikam Yedushtaram Titaram Tichadeva Mayam Aisham Mamaham Ititi Sarvakala Akshay
Yesham, unto those only. Sa, the Lord. Isha, the Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Dayayet, does bestow his mercy. Ananta, the unlimited potential. Sarva Atmana, by all means, without reservation. Ashuta Pada, surrendered soul. Yadi, if such surrender. Nirvilikam, without pretension. Te, those only. Dushtaram, insurmountable. Atitaranti, can overcome. Cha, and the paraphernalia. Devamayam, diverse energies of the Lord. Na, not. Isham, of them. Mama, mine. Aham, myself. Iti, thus. Di, conscious. Shwa, dogs. Shikala, jackals. Bakshe, in the matter of eating. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. But anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is his expansion of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly ever enter into the realm of the science of Godhead. The whole materialistic world, based on the conception of the material body as the self, is ignorant of the science of God. The materialist is always busy working for the welfare of the material body, not only his own, but also those of his children, kinsmen, community men, countrymen, etc. The materialists have many branches of philanthropic and altruistic activities from a political, national, and international angle of vision. But none of the field work can go on beyond the jurisdiction of the misconception of identifying the material body with the spirit soul. Unless, therefore, one is saved from the wrong conception of the body and the soul, there is no knowledge of Godhead. And unless there is knowledge of God, all advancement of material civilization, however dazzling, should be considered a failure. Maharaj, would you kindly like to make a comment for us? Shri Gauranatai Ki Jai.
Without surrendering the Lord and being favored by the Lord, then one is misdirected. He's wasting his time, because that's the real purpose of life. And without understanding the Lord and the transcendental, his energies and him, then one is in ignorance. He doesn't understand what's happening. For example, the atheists will say, we don't see any God, we don't see any need for God, we don't see any evidence of God. Simply, we have to conclude that we cannot perceive God, and so therefore we conclude there's no God. Therefore, we don't waste our time with it. And they chastise or criticize anyone who does. There's even some systems of government set up like this, that it's based on the principle that there's no God, of atheism. So rather, it's just the opposite. Everything is based on God. There's nothing that doesn't have anything to do with God. There's nothing separate from God. He's one with and different from everything. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagara vyakta mortina. Matstani sarvabhutanya chahante vastita. 9.4 Bhagavad Gita. That Lord is manifest everywhere through his energy. But the Lord is there. He's simultaneously one with and different from everything at the same time. So this is real knowledge, and this is real education. It's a great loss that society has gone down to the level of the subhumans. Because thinking that one is his body brings one down to the level of the animals. They're no better than a dog or a hog. And that's where we were before being saved from the wrong conception of body and soul. We didn't understand the body and soul, even though people think they understand what the soul is. They don't get it, because without bhakti, without devotional service, this is elusive. It's an illusion, Maya. It can't be perceived. It can only be perceived by one who's he's introduced to this system. It's like you have someone who's he's got power of hypnotism over others. So they're under his power, they're under his sway. Until they get free from that, from a higher cause reason, then they're forced to be under that misconception, that illusion. We have to get free from it, from the elusive, hypnotic system of Maya. She's got everyone under her spell. Everyone's thinking this is I am this body, and this is mine. So in that illusion, he speaks all types of nonsense things, nonsense newspapers, nonsense books, nonsense philosophy. This is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Brahma's message. Brahma is a very important person in the universe, but most people are totally ignorant. They don't know anything about Brahma. And still they want to be known as very learned, educated, advanced.
Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyaham Jagarti Samyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pasyato Mune. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So the devotees think the karmis are crazy, and the karmis think the devotees are crazy. That's a very nice point, because they see devotees give everything up, spend all their time chanting or studying books. It's thinking about when I contact friends or family that aren't devotees, they tell me, oh, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. And, they don't really understand what we're doing, because they expect to see some kind of big fruitive thing, some goal you're working for. You work to get married, or you work to have a house, or you're working for your degree, something that brings some kind of prestige and honor. So then, for instance, if you're talking to your parents, then they can say, oh, my son's doing this, he's doing that. And then they use that as part of their prestige and honor. But, if I were honest with them, it's like, oh yeah, I'm working hard to uncover my anarthas. I'm studying the Bhagavad Gita. They're like, oh, you said the same thing 3 years ago. Well, it takes time. But as you progress, you realize this, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is Dharma Svanushtitapam Samvishuksena Kathasuya Nat Padayad Yarivritim Shrama Evi Kevalam. Shrama Evi Kevalam, a complete waste of time. If one's dharma, if one's activities, their duties in life doesn't provoke an attraction for hearing about the Lord, then it's just simply a waste of time. Because, Prabhupada highlights that in this purport, that because the societies, the individuals and the society's view is based on the bodily platform, it's not connected to reality. Therefore, it will never bring satisfaction, it will never bring happiness, it will never bring anything desirable other than pain and misery. Because Krishna says that this world is temporary and it's filled with pain and suffering. So even if you live the most peaceful life or perfect life you could dream of, then eventually you still have to meet with death. But before death, what comes? Old age, disease. It's not a very pleasurable state. But here we're hearing how to overcome that. And, the same message is reiterated throughout the scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says it in many different ways himself. He says, pull it up just to get the exact translation. But he says, Tesham sadata yutanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Tesham evanukam partam aham jnana jam tamaha nashayamya atma bhavasto jnana dipena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So Krishna is saying that he's there to guide us out of this world if we're sincerely there serving him. Krishna, he also says how the modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, impossible, but one who surrenders unto him very easily can cross over them. Daivihe shagunamayi mama mayat ratyaya mamevaya ye prapatyante mayam etam trantite. Krishna says, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yukena sevate sagunan samatithyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. The one who engages unflinching devotional service, then he rises above these modes of material nature, which we know is called the gunas, which means ropes. These are what bind us to the material world. We're associating with these modes of material nature, and they force us to accept different roles, different upadhis, designations, desires, all these different aspects that shackle us in the material world. In the 10th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Lord Brahma is praying to Krishna, he pretty much says the same thing that's here, but in a nice way. He says, Samashritaye padapallavaplavam mahat padam punya yisho mararehe bhavam buddhirvatsa padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mora demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Param Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So by taking shelter of the Lord wholeheartedly, then this material ocean, these gunas, all these things that afflict us becomes very small, just like a calf's hoof print. You can imagine seeing a calf's hoof print on the ground and there's a little bit of water in there. You don't even have to think about crossing over it. You just take a step and you're already over it. But, an ocean is vast. It's insurmountable. If you're out at sea by yourself, even in a boat, there's hardly any hope. So that's the mercy of the Lord. So this message is, like I said, reiterated throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam by all these wonderful devotees who are praying to the Lord. Krishna is saying this throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita in different ways to give a proper context of what's going on, ultimately leading up to the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Sarva Dharman Prityaja, Mamikam Sharanam Vraja, Ham Tam Sarva Papevyo, Mokshi Shami Masucha. Just surrender unto me. So this is the essence of what Krishna is trying to speak to the conditioned soul. And every night we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita. hearing Krishna's instructions to Arjuna, Arjuna's questions to Krishna. And Arjuna is not an ordinary person. Arjuna is an eternal associate of the Lord. But Krishna is purposely putting him in this bewildering condition simply for the benefit of the conditioned soul, so he has the opportunity to speak the Bhagavad Gita, to give us a chance to come back to him. And to come back to him, this is the only way that we can be freed from all this material encumbrances, the things that bog us and bring us down from our spiritual reality, which is being Satchidananda, filled with bliss, realizing our eternality. You know, here Prabhupada is really shedding light on the bodily conception of life. You know, he makes the wonderful point that he usually does, that it's not just independent, you know, thinking that I am my body, but because I think I am my body, then everything I do in life is associated with that same conception. So therefore, this is the way that society is built, and everything is built around that. So everything is being built on a faulty foundation. And when you're building a house, a building, a big structure, the first thing you need is a strong foundation. Without that strong foundation, sooner or later the building will come crashing down. So similarly, all of this knowledge and way of living that we see around us is built on this faulty foundation. And it doesn't hold any ground, you know. So to go back to the first point was that they think the devotees are crazy, and the devotees think they're crazy, because once you are enlightened by the wisdom in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you are taught how to think, how to see beyond this illusion. But they may think, oh, you become indoctrined, you know, like adhering just to this book and not being able to think for yourself. You don't think, you just chant this mantra to bypass thinking and dealing with emotions and problems. But we could see that it's quite the contrary, because everybody's just hovering on this mental platform that's teetering back and forth, to and fro, happiness and distress, hankering and aversion, lamentation, joyfulness. And it's all temporary and transient, being fluxed by the modes of material nature. So the devotee who has experience of this is not disturbed. Krishna, he says, in the Bhagavad Gita, he talks about this. It's chapter 6, text 22. He says, bear with me one moment. Maybe it's not that text. Anyways, what he says is that the perfect yogi, by dint of his own realization with happiness and distress, can see the true equality of all other beings. So by you taking up the path and putting into practice all this wisdom and realizations that are being revealed through the scriptures and these personalities, then you can overcome these obstacles of, you know, happiness, distress, limitation, hankering, you know, the dualities of life. And because you work hard to overcome these, then you can see them in all others and not be disturbed by them. You know, you could see people that are, you might be out to be distributing books and you think people seem happy, people seem kind of okay, you know, life's not so bad. But if you truly unearth, uncover all these, you know, anarthas and push through them, then you'll never be disturbed, because you realize that everybody is dealing with the same thing. You know, there's a saying that you don't know what somebody's like until you know them behind closed doors. That's what it's like, you know. people go outside in the world, it's very easy to smile and put on a persona and an act, and people become conditioned to this. But deep down, everybody's feeling the same thing: fear, angst, depression, doubt, insecurities. So as the devotee, realize these things, it can be tough, purifying. Ooh, that experience, it was so purifying. It can be tough, but Krishna ultimately is directing the wandering of all living entities. It's the shloka Ishvara Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati Yanshra Rudhani Mayaya I forget the last two lines. Anyways, Krishna is directing the wandering of all living entities. He's sitting in the heart. So the karmi is desiring some kind of fruitive activity, some wealth driven by tinges of the mode of passion. The devotee is desiring to connect to Krishna, to serve Krishna, and Krishna is directing them accordingly. Krishna says, "Yatamam prabhadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham." He's there reciprocating with our degree of surrender. So how we want to associate and deal with the Lord, Krishna is willing to reciprocate. And on our own, we're very limited. We may come up with so many different ideas or speculations of what we think is best. And I'm just thinking of how, some people talk about you should always hold on to your dreams, never let go of your dreams. Always have, high dreams, because most people in America, they dream of some kind of American dream of making it rich, getting all this, but most people get bogged down by society, ultimately by the modes of material nature, and they don't even have a dream, and they just take it day by day, and they're just suffering like anything, just trying to pay the bills, or just trying to really just make it through another day without, killing themselves or having a breakdown. So the devotee, also, we should maintain a dream, a goal, maintain the vision. But, the vision is not coming from us. The vision is coming from the Guru. So, we are following in this parampara, which was reinvigorated by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came to deliver the fallen souls and bring the highest message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and teaching how to attain that. And he instructed his disciples to do that in very specific ways. He instructed Rupa Goswami, Sanat Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami to go unearth the hidden pastime places in Vrajbhumi, in Vrindavan, and to write scriptures, elucidating, elaborating on the scriptures, showcasing that serving this divine couple of Sri Radha, Krishna, is the highest perfection alive. And that was followed up even further by Jiva Goswami. After Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I mean, everybody has played their part, but some acharyas have significantly put in a lot of work on this mission of, emphasizing the tattva. So everything that we know is coming from there. So whatever we know of Krishna generally is coming from Prabhupada, and all that knowledge is coming through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which is coming through Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the scriptures, which is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishna Das Kaviraj, the six Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya, and so on. So we should be very grateful and respectful of these personalities who have similarly, just like Arjuna playing this role to hear the Bhagavad Gita and inquire and take the humble position for our benefit, to take the humble position of being the selfless disciple, ready to humbly inquire. all these personalities also have enacted a certain role for the Lord's pleasure and his Leela, because they're not normal personalities. I mean, the six Goswamis are residents of the spiritual world. Like I say that in the way that they've revealed that, they made it clear. Rupa Goswami's Rupa Mandri, he described his meditations of what it's like being in the spiritual world, serving the gopis, serving Srimati Radharani. Narottama Das Thakur, all these personalities. So the more that we can hear about them, study their lives, connect to them, study their teachings, and then carry them within our day-to-day lives, the more then we can be spiritually invigorated. In Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that the one who preaches Krishna consciousness, like this is what it means to have life. You're charged up and you want to go out and preach, that you could talk about Krishna, that you have something to say. Somebody could get up here and read the translation and purport and be like, okay, I don't have much to say. But when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would also say that, about the news. Maharaj mentioned something about the news. He said that we should make a spiritual newspaper, that there'd be no dearth of knowledge. It would never run out. Whereas this material news it's always new, but it's always redundant. They say history repeats itself. But the spiritual world, it's always pleasurable. So you put those 2 points together, that if one is actually, having life, hearing and chanting and connected to Krishna, Krishna will inspire him, and one could speak about Krishna endlessly. There's so much to say, there's so many different aspects, but we may not be so pure, and different devotees are competent in different fields. But the point is, we should be inspired and enlivened in our service. This is what it means to have life, to have that vigor to want to serve. So thank you everybody for patiently hearing. Is there any comments or questions or thoughts? I don't care.
I like what you were saying about if we go out to preach, it might look like some people are happy and smiling and externally act really nice. And I remember reading a good analysis of how society is functioning today like that, and how people, they're superficially might make a nice facade, but really the whole system is like a whirlpool of envy. I read, can I read like 2 or 3 paragraphs that describe it? Okay, well. Okay. Here, I'll just repeat that for the audio. Krsnendu was saying to summarize it so my realization can grow if I encapsulate it, repeat it for everybody. But anyway, I remember reading in one of Bhakti Vikas Swami's books, he was talking about how the main worldview of modern society is called liberal humanism, which is essentially saying, there was the Big Bang, everything's coming from nothing, human beings are the topmost of everything there is, all knowledge is just centered on, what humans can claim through their evidence. And it makes this whole, and also you mentioned all those different philosophers that are put in that dialectic spiritualism book, how they're kind of defining this worldview of today. And so it makes this whole facade of that we're the best and we're very altruistic, and we can have rights for these people, rights for those people, these rights, that's right, those rights. But at the end of the day, it's actually just promoting like an extreme amount of selfishness. It's just a culture of get as much as you can grab, and with no regard for whatever's happening to anybody else. So yeah, there's the summary of it, but he explains it all really nicely. I won't repeat it, but yeah, that's the essence of it, I guess, or a blurb about it.
Shy. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to support good causes and all these things, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of wording what I'm saying. Everybody's concerned about what's going on in the world. Say there's like kids who are getting paid next to nothing in horrible conditions who are putting together our phones and electronics, and people here in America see that and they're concerned about it. But ultimately they don't care, because if you get all the way to the bottom of it, it will take away their thing. So like you said, everybody's selfishly exploiting one another. No, everybody cares until it affects their own dinner plate. So, as long as my dinner plate, my eating, mating, sleeping, and defending is okay, according to like my quota of whatever I think is sufficient, which in one way is never sufficient because you always want more. But, to whatever I think is just, then as long as that's okay, then I care about others. But as soon as that's jeopardized, then I no longer care about others, because then I care about this. So this is the current state. And this is why Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish farm societies, because he could see beyond this facade of our civilization. And, very quickly, one like disaster could happen and the whole world could shut down. And just like here, like where do we get all the boga to offer the Lord? It all comes from the store. If there's no gas, if there's no trucks, if there's no, electricity, any one thing happens, then like everything goes down, and then the whole society is completely lost. Traditionally people lived off the land in a simple way, which is the way that God designed. There's nature, you plant things, the sun's there, it grows, there's rains, which are born from sacrifice, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, which, it isn't necessarily just like doing yagyas, but like born of prescribed duties by people following in the Vedic culture way, and the demigods are pleased and they shower rains which provide profuse things for our survival and our benefit. But because we're not doing that, and we have this mentality of liberal selfishism, whatever you call it, then it just take. So ultimately it's drying up, and everybody's living in the city. Nobody knows how to farm. Nobody knows how to live in touch with nature. And very soon we'll see some kind of disastrous situations that will shake this all up. But we are also included, so we just have to follow the shloka and take shelter of the Lord. And when disaster comes or good times come, we just glorify the Lord and preach to others. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. Vansha Kapatarubhyascha